Welcome to Part 1, Step number 8, Default Settings. In this video, we will look at the default settings. Now, to set up your default settings, please click the blue button labeled Default Settings. Now, a default setting is an automated setting created to save time and create rules. On this page are 4 default settings. The first 2 default settings are rules, and the second set of default settings are designed to save you time. Default setting rule number 1, drive schedule accessibility. So you need to decide how many days out a student can schedule a drive. For this example, we'll select 7, which means students will only be able to view or schedule drives 7 days out. In other words, they don't have the same access you do, and they can't see the entire schedule, just the parts you allow them to see. Here are several other things to remember. Number 1, this setting can be changed at any time. Number 2, this setting can be changed as often as you need. Number 3, as a master user or location administrator, you have the ability to manually reschedule drives as far in the future as you want. In other words, you're in complete control of all of the scheduling. Default setting rule number 2, days between drives. How many days are required between drives? This setting prevents students from scheduling drives too close to each other. So, if you want a gap between drives, select the appropriate option. Now, if you don't care if they drive 5 days in a row, choose 0, which means they can schedule a drive 5 days in a row. But if you choose 1, then they would only be allowed to schedule drives every other day. For our example, we will choose 2, which means a student must wait at least 2 days before they can drive again. Now, let's look at the 2 time-saving default settings. Time saver default setting number 3, student driver per car. In this example, we will assume that we have 2 students that will drive per session. Now, there may be a 3rd student in the car called an observer, but because they're not driving, we won't count them. Next is the time saver default setting number 4, length of each drive session. Now we know that we're going to have 2 drivers that each drive for 1 hour. So now we need to decide how long each drive session will be. So for this example, we will set our default settings for 2 hours. That's 1 hour of driving per driver. Later, when we schedule a drive, we'll see our default settings already populated in the drop-down menu. Now, for illustrated purposes, let's go ahead and change the student drivers per car to 1 and the length of drive session to 1, which will demonstrate that default settings can be modified when scheduling a drive. This concludes our tutorial, Part 1, Step 8, Default Settings.